Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and as usual, we have a ton of information, and I'll tell you what, I wish that I could quit talking about this, but look, until the true and honest thing is done here, we don't have any choice. We're having to point out the truth until this thing, because I'm at the conclusion that if we don't just focus on the truth of this thing, then really bad things are going to be done to the industry and to Ripple. And so I don't feel like any of us out here, not just in XRP, but in all crypto, if people don't start focusing on what's really going on here, you're not going to have a crypto industry besides Ethereum. You're just not. And as you watch this video, you'll see what I'm talking about, because to me, the picture becomes more and more clear by the day. And I think the picture is becoming more and more clear for Charles Gasparino. I think this guy came into this trying to be neutral and all that. But I don't think you can look very long without starting to get this really bad feeling about what's happening here. You just can't, because there is something really bad happening here. Okay, so Charles Gasparino had tweeted this yesterday. SEC versus Ripple case could establish limit on SEC's future involvement in crypto regulation sources. All right, so here we go. We've got there's what's awesome is there's so many people out there that are putting together clips and stuff. This is from Jess at ISO. You need to go follow this guy. I've seen him putting out a lot of clips lately. Watch this. This is Nancy Wotas. November 19th, 2018, and remember, the Ethereum free pass was June 2018.
But what people fail to understand is cryptocurrency fuels the technology, and what the SEC doesn't get, and I just came back from the SEC, and we can talk about that later, last night. So you'll have like firsthand information. I haven't even reported this to anyone. What the SEC fails to understand is bringing in the 80 years of history of securities regulation and trying to layer it on cryptocurrency just doesn't work. Cryptocurrency is trading in milliseconds. It can't do T+2, which is what a securities trade takes. And that's what the SEC can't seem to get in their head. And I disagree with James that, the securities laws can innovate. Maybe the law can, the regulators are not. And so
now let me tell you what my observation about Nancy Wotas is. She's with the Cooley law firm. She was one of the lawyers who was involved in going to the SEC, which turned out to get Ethereum the free pass. But I think that she's one of the people telling the truth. I think that she, in good faith, was doing, this is just my observation, my opinion. I believe that she was one of the ones that was going in good faith. I don't believe there's any part of this lady right here that doesn't tell the truth. I believe that she's one of them that was going and going through that process in good faith. I believe that after Ethereum got the free pass, I don't even know if to this day attorneys like her realize what I think I've come to realize, and that was that the whole point was to you got Bitcoin through the door, you get Ethereum through the door, and then you slam the freaking door on the rest of crypto and specifically Ripple and XRP. I think that was the whole point. When I put together all this stuff I've been showing, that's what it comes back to, and it keeps coming back to that place, is that someone wanted the door slammed mostly on XRP and Ripple, but also on other entrants. It's almost like someone wanted a monopoly, folks. It's almost, and don't forget that word monopoly, because it's almost like someone wanted a monopoly. Now, so I was looking around last night, happened to find another podcast of Joe Lubin. This is from August 19th, 2018. So his Ethereum free pass would have been fresh on his mind. And when you listen to this clip, it ought to make you furious. Because it made me furious, and everybody I've seen that watched it, it made them furious. And I have this question after watching this. What was he told by the SEC? Because he acts like he is an SEC commissioner. Watch this.
I mean, you mentioned obviously Hinman's comments, but more broadly, do you feel like we're kind of at a place now where we're on the verge of getting some important clarity and regulations in the United States?
I think we've got a lot of pretty high quality clarity, in my opinion.
Now, keep in mind, there's nobody else in the industry that thinks we have clarity except this guy. Only this guy. Not only does he think we have clarity, he thinks it's great. He thinks the SEC is great. They're his friends. I'll show you that in another clip.
The SEC has been very clear that, I guess Jay Clayton, Commissioner Clayton, indicated that they wouldn't grandfather anybody. That big surprise.
I've never heard that. Listen, they indicated that they would not grandfather anybody. I have never heard that phrase in all the time that I have been talking about this and covering this. I have never heard a reference that the SEC's indicated they're not going to grandfather anybody except from this guy.
They're going to enforce securities law roughly like they have for many decades, and there will be lots of projects that sold securities, unregistered securities, to Americans that have received communications or will receive communications. My thesis is that the SEC doesn't want to kill blockchain for America, and so they have to be very careful,
They don't want to kill blockchain for Ethereum or the ICOs that are issued on Ethereum. That's where my conclusion keeps going.
Thread the messaging needle where they present.
And Bitcoin. They don't want to kill Bitcoin, and they don't want to kill Ethereum, and they want Ethereum to have the ability to issue tokens on the Ethereum network. That is what this all points to.
Positive statements about Bitcoin, about Ethereum, about consumer utility tokens. So I think we're still in that phase where the SEC is communicating that we understand this is something new and it's going to be an incredibly valuable technology, but we also have rules, and all the projects out there need to pay attention to rules that are in place to preserve the sanctity of market.
Now, I think Joseph Lubin's a very smart guy, but what I've learned about people in my life at age 47 is just like Vitalik Buterin. He's an extremely intelligent guy, but if you take him out of his lane, the guy's not only is he not smart, you take him out of his lane and he becomes pretty dumb and says some pretty dumb things. Well, Joseph Lubin's no different. You know what I think what Joseph Lubin's kryptonite is? Because these are his words, these aren't my words. You know what I think his kryptonite is his arrogance. Because every time his arrogance kicks in, that's when a blinking, flashing light starts popping up in his words, and it points to something really bad. Listen here where his arrogance kicks in.
It's in consumer safety. So I'm pretty comfortable in this country and in various countries around the world.
He wants to say it so bad.
That the securities law issues are pretty close to resolved, and I do.
How does he know that the securities issues are pretty close to resolved? How does he know that?
There are going to be some bad times for some projects going forward.
How does he know that?
I think that's going to be a very good thing. Getting clarity with respect to regulation is going to really kickstart the token ecosystem.
Well, it'd be very helpful to get rid of a lot of the scammy companies in the space. That would be great for everybody.
Yeah, so a lot of projects with naive technologists and naive entrepreneurs felt that this was very different. Maybe it's because it was in a global context. Maybe they were just excited about the potential of the technology. And I guess the barrier to entry was so low, you really could just cut and paste a token launch, and many fraudulent projects did that.
Okay, so there's that. Then I tweeted this out because I wanted to remember this point. For over 3+ years, I have watched smart people talk about proof of work as if there's no other tech that existed. Wall Street would only talk about Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now we know why. Who else knew? So he obviously is being told things by the SEC. That's pretty obvious here. Who else is being told things? Because for over 3 years, on this channel, I've covered it, and it never made any sense to me, but against this backdrop, it does make sense. All of these platforms that have come out that had Wall Street backing, all they ever listed was Bitcoin and Ethereum and proof of work digital assets, like things that are garbage, in my opinion, like litecoin. That's all they ever did was proof of work, because it's almost as if some of these Wall Street people knew. It's almost as if some of these Wall Street people knew that the proof of work digital assets were going to be allowed to go through the door, and that then the door was going to be slammed. It's almost as if they knew. Now, John Deaton weighed in. It's obvious that certain individuals tied to Ethereum had the ear of the SEC officials in 2018. That wouldn't be an issue and would usually be called effective advocacy and lobbying. Now, I made this point the other day. There's nothing wrong with these law firms and all these people meeting with the SEC. The only point at which this could become a big problem, like Houston, we have a problem, is this second line. But what if those same officials were also intimately tied to Ethereum? The SEC action was the means and the end. Now, then there was this, okay? And I said maybe Hester Pierce, I think Hester Pierce might be one of the only good guys in the SEC. I don't know. But maybe Hester Pierce can explain to us how he knows so much. Was he in the weekly meetings in 2018? I can get my 9-year-old to draw a picture if they still don't see it after watching this. Where is Hinman's public calendar? All right, so this is what you just listened to, but I decided I would add on to the end of it. I won't play that whole part, but I decided to add on to the end of it one of the other Joseph Lubin comments.
America, and so they have to be very careful, sort of have to thread the messaging needle where they...
How does he know that the SEC needs to thread the messaging needle? How does he know anything about what their approach is?
Present some positive statements about Bitcoin, about Ethereum, about consumer utility tokens. So I think we're still in that phase where the SEC is communicating that we understand this is something new and it's going to be an incredibly valuable technology, but we also have rules, and all the projects out there need to pay attention to rules that are in place to preserve the sanctity of markets and consumer safety. So I'm pretty comfortable in this country and in various countries around the world that the securities law issues are pretty close to resolved. And
how does he know that?
That there are going to be some bad times for some projects going forward, but I think that's going to be a very good thing. Getting clarity with respect to regulation is going to really kickstart or re-kickstart the token ecosystem. They have not said the same thing about other tokens, the Ripple token, for instance, and they were clear that they were going to come out with statements to sort of assess these different tokens, and I believe they've made all the statements about decentralization that they're going to make.
How does he know that? Why does he believe that they've made all the statements about decentralization? And by the way, recently the SEC told Charles Gasparino that it's not about decentralization, it's about infrastructure, that their infrastructure is complete, which it's not, because they're not transitioned to Ethereum 2.0. We've shown that too. Like Charles Gasparino said yesterday, I don't remember his exact words, it was on my thumbnail. Actually, I've got my thumbnail right here in front of me. Let me pull it up. What he said was, they seem to be making stuff up as they go along. That's not your imagination, Charles. And then there's this. Now, a lot of people don't know it, but back in 2018, one of the Bitcoin maxis, Jimmy Song, he didn't like Ethereum, so he wanted to bet Joseph Lubin on basically how far along he thought Ethereum would be in such and such period of time. So this is a clip from Laura Shin, who's the ultimate Bitcoin and Ethereum maxi. This is from her Unchained podcast on August 24th, 2018, a few months after Ethereum gets its free pass.
The only thing I'm concerned, Joe, and I'm dead serious about this, I'm concerned if you are in jail by that point, what happens then? If the SEC says that these things are security, or if somebody does something like that, that's part of why I would prefer something that is more, like continuous rather than one giant step function 5 years from now. Now we could do that, and I don't know. Maybe you don't think that there's much chance of anyone willing to throw you in jail or something like that. But it is a concern, at least from my perspective, and sure. I would like.
I appreciate your concern for my well-being on that front. As you're aware, our friends at the SEC, who, in my opinion, are doing a really great job at understanding this space and clarifying how securities law applies to this new ecosystem. They've recently come forth declaring that Bitcoin was always decentralized and never a security, that Ethereum is not considered a security right now. And about 2 months ago, Bill Hinman, Director of Corporate Finance at the SEC, made some remarks about these network business models that I was talking about earlier in the podcast, indicating that you could stand up a network of different actors and create a token that represents the business logic of the system.
There's no partial. It's either got a central point of failure or it doesn't. I don't buy this.
Nothing is perfectly decentralized.
I thought it was. I thought Ethereum was decentralized.
Well, it's an either or. It's a binary. It's not okay. Like people like to say, it's like some sort of
centralization.
If there are points of centralization, then the government can regulate it. At that point, it's not really decentralized. And that's it.
Governments could come along and step on Bitcoin or Ethereum if they were so inclined.
Well, they could try. They'd be a lot more effective on Ethereum because Ethereum's centralized, but Bitcoin is not. So there you go.
Joe.
All right, so there you go. And then there was this. I just happened to bump into this. And any of you that are that ever talked to Julia Chatterley on Twitter, two things. First, we're still waiting on her to cover this story, which she refuses to do, or not outwardly refused, but she won't. She hasn't covered it. And the second thing is, I can't find this clip from September 11th of 2018, where she interviews Joseph Lubin. He tweeted about it. She tweeted about it right here. And there's a link, but it doesn't take you to the thing. It was on First Move, okay? That was her show back then. Maybe I can go and look some more. But anyway, I did find another interview that you need to go and watch. It's in my thread. Watch every single word of it, especially around the 4-minute mark. Ripple is sued by the SEC 4 months after this clip, okay? Julia Chatterley has not been willing to touch the Ripple SEC story. So now, I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's 7 minutes. I'm going to play the first part, and then I'm going to jump to 4 minutes because you need to hear that part.
Welcome back to First Move. Digital assets and blockchain technology taking another step towards the mainstream in a further blending of what I see as institutional finance with 21st century technology. Consensus buying JP Morgan's Ethereum-based blockchain unit Quorum. Now, as part of the deal, JP Morgan will also invest an undisclosed sum in Consensus. It's a company that develops software based on the Ethereum blockchain. Real-life examples of what Consensus has worked on include facilitating faster payment technology and improving supply chains. Joe Lubin is the founder of Consensus and co-founder of Ethereum and joins us now. Joe, fantastic to have you on the show. Huge congratulations on this deal. I know it's been rumored for a while. Just explain what this means and what additional powers this will give you to make real world improvements.
Hi, Julia. Thanks for having me on today. As you indicated, Consensus is announcing today that we are acquiring JP Morgan's Quorum Enterprise Ethereum blockchain platform. We additionally will see an investment, a strategic investment from JP Morgan, and have a seat on the board dedicated to JP Morgan. We'll be working together with JP Morgan to merge the technical roadmaps of our own Hyperledger Besu client, which is an Ethereum mainnet compatible client with the Quorum technical roadmap. And under a commercial agreement, we will be supporting JP Morgan's Interbank Information Network, the IIN, and JPM Coin Network. So we will be bringing a much more comprehensive enterprise Ethereum solution to not just JP Morgan and the hundreds of financial institutions on their networks, but the additional hundreds of institutions around the world that make use of enterprise Ethereum and that are increasingly starting to make use of public mainnet Ethereum.
Ooh, so there's two things there for me. Obviously, as you've hinted, the network of payment technology that JP Morgan had already created that you're, I assume, going to help develop. But I think there will be people watching this going, hang on a second, is this a traditional bank like JP Morgan perhaps stepping away from crypto, stepping away from blockchain technology and handing it over to one of the experts? Is that this, or are they as dedicated as ever?
Well, it's not my role to speak directly for JP Morgan, but I can confirm that this step indicates that JP Morgan is doubling down on the Ethereum technology.
Okay, I want you to see the 4-minute mark right in here. Watch this.
In terms of the vote of confidence, I guess, for...
And by the way, for 3 years on this channel, we've talked about Ripple working to try to replace SWIFT.
Ethereum as one subset of this technology at this moment. I do want to hone in, though, on the payments technology that you mentioned. More than 400 plus institutional clients all over the world were transacting on that platform. We've talked about something called SWIFT on this show before, which currently is the standard for payments being transferred all over the world. And it's slow and it's clunky and errors get made. Do you see potentially what's here and what you can build on as being a replacement for SWIFT? Because there are other challengers out there that are perhaps looking to do the same.
Yeah, so I think that's a reasonable way to frame this. Payment technology evolved organically. First, there were transaction systems, and then things got complicated, and then messaging systems got built as an overlay over the transaction systems, and they're often out of sync and require reconciliation across different kinds of databases. Paraphrasing Marshall McLuhan, the transaction is now the message. And so the transaction and the message are married on blockchain technology. And blockchain technology representing a new trust foundation is going to, whether it's central bank digital currencies or commercial bank digital currencies or pure cryptocurrencies, they will facilitate much more fluid real-time transaction.
I think you've seen enough. I mean, look, I could sit down my 9-year-old and show him the video I'm making right now, and he would freaking get this, okay? My 9-year-old could piece this together. He'd probably look at me and say, Daddy, why is this being allowed? What's going on here? That's what he would say to me. This is crazy. This is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs right here, folks. Charles Gasparino, and look, this is what Charles Gasparino is now going through, and you can see it in this tweet. He's now bumping up against the truth, and he's just now starting to, his red flags, or his antennas just now starting to go up. You can see it in this tweet. Still waiting for the SEC to explain to me why past blockchains were not in violation of disclosure rules when they were using their crypto to finance the build-out. I get why these are not securities now, but why weren't they in violation then? Deserves an answer. So Charles Gasparino is right over the target. And see, they didn't have to answer any of us because we're not legit media in the eyes of all these people, and that's fine. But they have to, they got to figure out how to deal with him. So as long as Charles Gasparino is not going to back down and really wants the truth, they're going to have to answer that. And the dirty little secret is they cannot answer it. They can't answer it. They can't. They can't, because this is not right, and they know it, you know it, I know it, my 9-year-old would know it, everybody knows it, okay? Now, Charles Gasparino, John Deaton was expressing his frustration that none of these mainstream media like CNBC are covering the story. Charles Gasparino, who would know, says, don't take it personally. Since I left CNBC, the crew has been late to most big stories. And then there's this, I wanted to make sure I reiterate this in this video. All we ever wanted and still want is a level playing field for XRP. I think some were terrified of that level playing field. I want Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP to succeed on a level playing field. Competition brings out the best. It brings out the best for my sons in baseball. It brings out the best with companies. It brings out the best with digital assets. And I don't know what world we're living in where there are people and forces in play here that don't want that to happen, and it's being allowed by our government. This is sick. This is not the country I want my children to grow up in. It's sick, it's warped, and it needs to be fixed. And it can easily be fixed with the safe harbor that Hester Pierce proposes. And you can do a safe harbor because Ethereum needs a safe harbor too, folks, because Ethereum 2.0 is a new security they're about to issue. That's the fact, Jack. All right? So I said that's what this country is supposed to be about, is competition. I want to remind everybody that today, linked to one of my sponsors, is doing the Global Investor Conference. Today, 3:10 Pacific time. That is like 6 o'clock my time, 6:10 my time. So my wife is going to be like, why are you having to do this again? You got to watch this thing while we want to watch TV. In fact, here's what we're watching right now that's a great show, is through Apple TV, Ted Lasso, where they take an American football coach who's kind of a goofball and try to make him a European soccer coach, or as they call it over there, football. Really good show. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that Ted Lasso is